the question I have for you, what happens, though, now? We are where we are. Netanyahu and his government are in charge. Nobody seems to be stopping them. What happens?
To your broader question of where does this all end up going, there's almost two kind of simultaneous wars, in a sense, that are going on. There's the actual, control of power, in which case Israel's done phenomenally well over the last couple of years. I mean, Israel still has the support of the most powerful governments in the world, damn near unconditionally, if not purely unconditionally. They've been very successful in terms of taking out Hezbollah leaders. They've been very successful in terms of destroying the Gaza Strip. They've been successful in getting the regime change that they've wanted for many years in Syria. However, simultaneously, while that's going on, global opinion has drastically changed of Israel to a degree that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. And despite whatever arguments might be made for whether this meets a genocide or doesn't meet a genocide, or whether, as two former Israeli prime ministers who have come out recently and said that war crimes are being committed, wherever you fall on that, the fact is that the debate is now over whether Israel is committing a genocide or not. And that is something that all of us should take a step back and appreciate how profound it is. Especially amongst young people, in the future, I don't believe Israel will ever be viewed the same as it was by my parents' generation. And so what does that mean? As you mentioned earlier, Piers, that's right. This is a big part of how wars end, is when public support evaporates.
When I interviewed the UK ambassador to the UK,
yes,
she was able to tell me definitively that 30,000 Hamas terrorists had been killed.
I think it was an estimate, let's be clear.
But she had absolutely no idea, estimate or otherwise,
yes,
how many children have been killed in the process. Do you know?
There's a very simple logical explanation for that, which is Israel is targeting Hamas and Palestine.
Do you know how many children Israel's killed in the process?
There is a very simple explanation for the reason that we do not know, because
you only count the terrorists you killed, not the children.
Hear the explanation?
Well, I just ask you, just to be clear, are you saying that the IDF only counts the bodies of terrorists it kills, not innocent children?
Well, the IDF has not been, and this is a shift now, as you will have heard from Jonathan Conricus, has not been in control of any significant part of Gaza to be able to conduct that analysis.
So how does it know how many terrorists it's killing?
Because it is striking them with clear intelligence and targeting those strikes deliberately.
So it counts the bodies of the terrorists, but not the children it kills in the process.
It counts. I'm sorry, this is perfectly logical.
It's actually not logical at all.
It counts.
To anyone watching this, they're thinking, what on earth are these Israelis saying? First the ambassador, now you. What you're saying is that you only count the terrorists that are killed. You don't count the children that are killed in the process of killing the terrorists.
Perhaps
to which it begs the question,
no, I can provide you with some additional analysis.
Why? Dave, I'm told I'm lacking logic here. Is there anything logical about what we're hearing about how they apparently know the exact ratio of terrorists they're killing to civilians, but they don't know how many civilians they're killing? How do you know the ratio?
Piers, it's just too ridiculous. I think one of the things that any honest observer has noticed since the very beginning of this conflict is that the Israelis, including the highest levels of the Israeli government, they just speak out of both sides of their mouth the whole time. And so it's like, which argument are we even taking on? I mean, they'll sit here and say from the very beginning that the goal is just to get the hostages back and to defeat Hamas, while their finance minister is openly talking about how the goal is to cleanse the entire strip.
He's not even hiding it. He says it.
Yes.
He literally says it in front of the world.
Yes. And we see them now putting this into plans into action to do this. So how are we to judge this? They'll sit here and say that they've taken painstaking efforts to make sure that they limit the number of civilians that are killed, while also saying they have no idea how many civilians are being killed, and they don't count the number because that's not who they're targeting. You'll sit here and say we're only targeting Hamas, or that we're only intentionally targeting Hamas, and at the same time think about the argument they're even making as Smotrich is out bragging about how not one grain of wheat will get into Gaza for this 3-month period that you're referring to. But they'll say, hey, look, they have stockpiles of aid that had gone in there previously. It's like, okay, Piers, so then logically, can't we deduce you're not starving Hamas, They've got plenty of food. Then who is the additional blockade supposed to impact? It's the civilian population. And so, listen, I'm sorry, this is just anybody with just common sense and a basic understanding of logic could tell you that none of these defenses make any sense.
As Smodrich has said, it is to take over and clear out Gaza of all the Palestinians. That is genocide, isn't it? And that's, I mean, you're a lawyer.
No,
you tell me.
Israel's war aims have been clear from the outset, which is the destruction of Hamas.
They haven't
and
done
the
that.
return of the hostages. Well, because the war's not over yet.
You haven't done either of those things. All you're doing is killing more and more civilians, and you've been starving them.
The propaganda that we're discussing right now, which is clearly what has shifted your position and perspective on this,
What do you mean by
is deeply
propaganda?
dangerous. Calling Israel a committer of genocide or saying that it is starving children.
Well, actually, the people alleging that Israel's committing war crimes are two former Israeli prime ministers.
Who have their own political agendas here. Let's
how convenient. How convenient. The two former prime ministers of the country have said that you are committing, as a government, not you, but the government is committing war crimes, and you dismiss it as just a bit of internal politics.
These blood libels, occupation, ethnic cleansing,
wow, so you think the settlements are not illegal?
And genocide are all part and parcel of the propaganda, which I would like to be able to come on to, because all of the evidence goes in completely the opposite direction in terms of Israel's compliance with the laws of armed conflict and its in the amount of steps that Israel takes. Unprecedented in the history of armed conflict, and military commanders
that's just a load of bullshit. I'm sorry, it just is.
Which other army?
It just is. Which other war in recent times have you had half the population is under 18 and you killed 20,000 kids in 20 months?
Those figures are Hamas figures that you are constantly
give me an example of where this morality has been played out elsewhere.
Well, I was explaining earlier that the Hamas figures are inflated, that there are internal inconsistencies.
How convenient for you. You don't know what the figures are, so how do you know?
That because there have been independent studies.
How do you know how many figures are inflated or otherwise? You don't know how many have been killed.
Because we know Hamas lies. It is an internationally prescribed terrorist organisation.
Well, some might think you're lying, because you say on one hand, I don't know how many children have been killed, but on the other hand, and that's a blood libel if you say we've killed any of them, but on the other hand...
That's not what I said, no.
But on the other hand, you know all about the ratios, and you know how humane the Israeli forces are being, but you don't know how many they're killing.
The fact that people like the two of you will continue to put out this false information, to perpetuate this conflict, to perpetuate Palestinian suffering, is truly disgusting. What have I said that's false?
I didn't think anyone could be more disingenuous than the UK ambassador. I got to say, Natasha, you've got right up there. You've crossed that little bar, haven't you?